IoT, Internet of Things. I gave a presentation to Club Awesome a few years ago about the cloud, which I was writing about as an editor for technology publications. And I expected to have to explain to people what the cloud was, and I was surprised at that point how much it had made its way out into popular culture. These days you can't turn on the TV without seeing an ad for Microsoft saying why its cloud is better than everybody else's cloud. So I guess we're all very cloudy now. But Internet of Things. How many people think they know what I'm talking about when I say Internet of Things? All right, so it's made its way out there somewhat. If you've seen those General Electric ads about the programmer trying to explain to his friends that working on locomotives and hospital equipment is just as cool as programming something that does an app for cat photos. That is an example of the Internet of Things. The idea that everything is going to be connected. Everything is going to have a chip in it, it's going to be wired, it's going to be wireless, it's going to be devices talking to each other, cooperating, hopefully on our behalf, hopefully on behalf of mankind, possibly conspiring against us. Is it good or bad overall? You know, the answer is probably it depends, a little bit of both, you know, depending on how that lawsuit between Apple and the FBI plays out. Maybe this turns into a little spy that follows you everywhere, records your every movement, and the government can tap into it to find out about all your conversations, everywhere you've been, everyone you've spoken with. Some of that is already happening out in the cloud, right? The telecom cloud is logging all your calls, and the government is combing through those records. On the other hand, if you think about the phone. The phone has been good and bad also, right? So we joke about all the antisocial habits we develop, obsessing over our phones and texting on our phones. So maybe that's not such a great thing. On the other hand, we would not have a piece of video showing a police officer shooting a black man in cold blood as the man is retreating, or video of the officers rearranging the evidence at the scene to fit the story that they're going to tell later. So that was an example of the phone as a tool for truth and justice, in my opinion. But you know, some of this stuff needs to be sorted out. It will be a mix of good and bad. And since we're at Toastmasters, we can't go without discussing the Internet toaster. So when I started writing about the Internet in the mid-90s, the Internet toaster was already a meme, a thing that people would talk about, you know, all these wondrous things that the Internet was supposed to accomplish, yeah, like the Internet toaster. Well, I didn't know that the Internet toaster was actually a thing. This was at the 1990 Interop show. They wired up a toaster to the Internet, to the network, and you could control it using the SMTP protocol, Simple Network Management Protocol, which is usually used to control Internet routers. You could turn the toaster on or off or adjust the temperature. A human still had to put the toast in and take it out, although in 1991 they came back with a robotic arm for the toaster. So this is still something that people are pursuing. The BBC came out with a toaster that had a touch screen on the side. These are mostly concept car things. But there are real connected devices that we would not have expected a few years ago, like the pill that you swallow that has computer instrumentation in it, and it reports out from your insides some details about what's going on inside your body. I've heard serious medical applications for this. This particular article that I got the image from was talking about a soccer team that was monitoring the temperature from the inside of their players to figure out something or other about their performance. Is that a useful thing or not? I don't know. But a lot of times when new technologies comes out, people just try stuff. They're experimenting, they're hacking around with things until they start to find useful applications. And there will be useful medical applications for pills that you swallow that have computer chips in them. Here's an instrumented, it's like a pepper. So agricultural uses, figuring out how much moisture content is inside this piece of fruit and how well it is ripening. A lot of the database and cloud technologies that are very bleeding edge are being driven by trying to analyze all this data and do something intelligent with it. Vehicles talking to each other. There are all sorts of plans for how cars can report to each other. I think the standard is that cars are supposed to signal each other and maybe signal equipment on the side of the road 10 times a second. Velocity, braking conditions. So this can something that maybe can reduce congestion, avoid accidents. Some smaller countries, such as Japan, have done some interesting things, and they've shown that they've been able to reduce accidents, reduce congestion. In the United States, we have this big, messy federal and state system with control over the highways, so sorting out the standards and getting the equipment deployed is probably going to take a while. But definitely some interesting things are going to happen there. And this is the Google self-driving car. So it has a camera on top. I believe it's radar too, but it senses what's going on the street around it. The car drives itself around. Is that a good thing? You know, someday this means that instead of gritting your teeth because you're in a traffic jam, you'll be able to kick back and have a glass of wine, because after all, you weren't driving.
I love that. I know, right?
So already, Uber is considered sort of an Internet of Things application because the service is sensing where all the cars are, who they can dispatch, who can pick you up the most quickly. Is this good or bad?
Oh, wow.
This would be the successor to Google Glass, the Google contact lens. Internet of Things? Could be fun. Madam Toastmaster.